So now we'll deal with the second flavor of this kind of theological relativism, which we're going to term non-denominationalism. And that's not meant as an attack on people who happen to be part of a non-denominational church. But we would say that those churches are an example of the error that we're trying to combat here.
We can define that church real quick, because that is a matter of a lot of confusion for people. So there's this idea of non-denominationalism, which is that I don't want to be part of a denomination. I'm not a member of one. I'm not really sure if any one of them is true. I'm just going to try to be Christian the best I can. That is not the same thing, though it's related to the church that calls itself non-denominational. You will find these churches, they either might say on their sign out front that they are non-denominational, or you would go there and after a month you would still have no idea strictly of what they actually believe. That would be a non-denominational church, which, despite its name, is a denomination, because the defining feature of non-denominational churches is that they explicitly reject the concept of creeds and confessions, which is why it's so hard to identify what people in these churches believe. And that's kind of the flaw with the movement itself, that either the general idea of non-denominationalism or the non-denominational church share in common.
A distinction that we draw on our own platform between these two types of non-denominationalism is the idea of a discerning Christian. So there are many individuals, and maybe you listening to this podcast might be one of them, who know that they believe in Christ and they accept the basic tenets of the gospel, but they just haven't investigated the differences between denominations all that much, and they don't really know where they fall. And so they're kind of searching and learning and trying to find where they fit. On our platform, we would call that person a discerning Christian. They might call themselves a non-denominational, but we don't think that's really an accurate term for them, because they're not rejecting the concept of denominations. They just don't know which one they fall into.
Those people who aren't sure where they would fall because they haven't really done the research, or maybe they're just not minded to do that kind of research. That's not a thing that interests them or intrigues them. The flaw with the movement and with the non-denominational churches is that they don't enable people to ever do so. Like I said, you could go to a non-denominational church for a month and walk away with very little idea of what specifically anybody believes in there. The reason being is that there is not really a universal belief in there. You could ask 15 different people in that church what they think about the same Bible verse and very likely walk away with 15 different answers. This isn't fulfilling in the way that, Christianity ought to be. In a universal Christianity, a Christianity with all of its different aspects, traditions, practices together, should have room for intellectual exploration of high theology and patristics and scriptural study. And non-denominationalism, the movement or the church, doesn't offer any room for that, because there is no objective truth to it.
It's sort of a paradoxical problem, right? Because by being non-denominational, as their creed being that they don't believe in denominations, really means that they don't believe in doctrine. And when you remove doctrine from the equation, you actually end up with less room for exploration, because doctrine in the traditional churches serves as a guardrail to keep Christians within the bounds of acceptable theological exploration. And when you remove those guardrails, you end up with really wild things. And this is how we get Christians or self-professed Christians who advocate for all kinds of immorality or sinful behavior or really bizarre practices sometimes. And it's because they've removed the guardrails. So it's kind of a paradox in that there's actually less room for genuine exploration because they don't have a context within which to understand that exploration.